morning, everybody. My name is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast, where I have the amazing opportunity to interview so many people that will help provide some motivation, inspiration, and education through the interview today. So this is our guest. This is Celina Zacarias. She is the Executive Director of Community and Government Relations for California State University Channel Islands. Celina is responsible for advancing Cal State University Channel Islands' positive presence and goodwill at all levels throughout the culturally diverse service region, the state, the nation, and internationally by planning, directing, and implementing a comprehensive proactive program of community and government relations. Celina is also responsible for establishing and maintaining strong relationships with local elected officials, state legislators, and U.S. congressional representatives in Washington, D.C., and their staff members with the goal of communicating the campus position on issues to obtain support for needed resources. For years, Celina has been extensively involved in the community, holding numerous leadership positions in professional, economic, and charitable organizations. In February 2020, Celina was appointed by her fellow Oxnard Harbor District Board of Commissioners to the vacancy left by the passing of Dr. Manuel Lopez. And in November 2022, was elected to a 4-year term as commissioner. Celina graduated from UCSB with a Bachelor of Arts Degree in Spanish Literature and Hispanic Civilization. She has studied abroad in Cuba, China, the Czech Republic, Hong Kong, and England. Quite the bio to get us started today. I'm super excited to have you on, and I appreciate that you're here because I know you got a busy schedule and a busy day, so thanks for taking the time to be with me.
Oh, so excited to be with you, Jason. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've seen your videos play throughout the years, and I always check in to see who you're interviewing. So thank you once again for allowing me the platform.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to start right away with just getting right to the point as far as what is your motivation behind your career and what you've done from a young child to now?
I think my motivation has been to be able to offer the opportunities that I have had over my lifetime to others. So if you know a little bit about my background, I was born in Mexico. My parents came to the United States when I was 3 years old, and there were farm workers. And I also picked strawberries alongside my mom for years before going off to college. And so someone would think that a person that was being raised in that environment would not have the possibility to fly on a C-17 across the United States, land on the USS Ronald Reagan, and then, be able to promote higher education and the importance of it. And I really do think that prior to being at the university, I was in mortgage banking for 25 years, primarily working on affordable housing projects. Absolutely loved what I did because I saw the impact it was making on changing families, right, in their lives. And then when I got to the university, I realized that my first year here, I realized, wow, I am living proof that higher education does transform lives. And so I've just been offered so many opportunities, and I've met some amazing people along the way that's my motivation, is to open those doors for others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that's amazing. And let's kind of go back to your childhood and talk a little bit more about that. Coming to this country at 3 years old, and, I'm sure at that time you didn't really realize a whole lot until you got a little bit older. But, as you were growing up, what was higher education always something that you sought after, something that you always wanted, or how did that become such an important part of your life?
It was something I always did well in school, and I always had my parents and other friends around me pushing me, but I never really saw higher education as a possibility, just because, once again, my parents were farm workers, so we weren't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but we had a roof over our head. They purchased a house. We always had food on the table. So I knew no different, right? And so when I was in high school, it was a UCSB counselor that was doing outreach work, my dear friend now, Lupe Reyes Castillo, who reached out to me and said, oh, you have the great grades to go on to UCSB. Have you thought about applying, or where are you going to apply to? And I said, no, I can't do that to my parents. It's just too expensive. I just don't want to impose that upon them. And she was the one that said, no, you're going to college. I'm going to help you fill out the application. I'm going to help you fill out financial aid forms, and you're going to do it. There's no reason why you shouldn't. You've got the grades. You worked hard for them. And lo and behold, later on, I graduated, and here I am today.
Wow. Let's go back again, to your childhood. What, being the child of farm workers and understanding, a hard work ethic and what you had to do to make things work. Tell me how that shaped your life as a young person and how it carries with you today.
First of all, so my parents, when they came from Mexico, they were looking for a better life, right? And so what that better life would probably be different for you than it would be for me. And so working up in a farm worker family, we all played our part. My brothers and my sister, we all worked, and we were not your typical family. We gave mom and dad the paycheck, and if we're lucky, we got maybe $10 for allowance, right? Because we were helping support the family. But working and growing up in that environment taught me an extremely strong work ethic. A lot of people say, well, wow, you work so hard. I'm thinking, no, in the scheme of things, this is not hard work. I get to dress up every day. I get to go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner meetings. I get to do what I love and I'm very passionate about. And that's one thing that I've always told myself. And I always tell anyone I come across, especially our students, when they're looking to step into different careers, is do something you love. Life is too short to be miserable at it. And if it's not your cup of tea to be in that position, then go seek something that is. Don't sit comfortably in a position just because it's a job, because not only are you making yourself miserable, you're making all those around you miserable, right? So really, truly be passionate. And I've been very blessed and very fortunate to work in two careers that I thought I couldn't find anything better than working in affordable housing. And when I came to the university, I thought, oh my God, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Well, listen, I couldn't agree with you more about finding something that you're passionate about and making that your career versus going into, something that you have to do. And I've talked with my children many times, which, by the way, that my daughter is a student
Yes.
at Channel Islands.
She is a dolphin. Yes.
Yes. And so, I've always told them, I said, go out and find as many opportunities as you can for yourself so that you can choose what you truly want to do instead of being stuck in a rut where you kind of have to do something. You've just kind of been in a job and you just stay with the job. And like you said, I mean, if you're miserable at your job, I mean, everybody's going to kind of pick up on that. And you can tell who is passionate about their work and you can tell who is just going through the motions. So I encourage everybody that when you're looking for that career path, look for something that you're passionate about, look for something that you love and pursue, because there's so many different opportunities. And you mentioned something, as we were talking earlier about looking for opportunities. And sometimes we may not be in the right position, or we may not have the right education at the time, which we can always further our education. We could always, improve our skills. But sometimes just grabbing onto an opportunity and taking it for all it's worth is a good bit of advice.
Exactly. And, I think that we have a lot of opportunities to venture into different careers, but by volunteering, go out there and volunteer. I have met some amazing people throughout my lifetime just by going out there and volunteering. And so I always, especially kids nowadays, because you have social media, right? I always tell them, be very careful what you do in social media or in life general, because people are watching what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say. And in my lifetime, I've had, for example, my first career. So as you mentioned, I have a degree in history, Hispanic civilization, and Spanish. Right. So when I graduated from UCSB, I had no idea what I was going to do. But I saw an ad. They were looking for someone bilingual, bicultural. I'm like, okay, I'm your person. you hire me, right? And so when I was working at this finance company, a gentleman would always come in, and he had some business to do with the finance company. And he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about going into mortgage lending? You're bilingual. We're looking for someone bilingual to start up in the emerging markets for our company." I said, I don't know. I said, math is not my strong suit. That is, I had to take algebra over in high school in order to be able to get accepted to college. And he said, no, but you've got the personality, you've got the people skills, you're bilingual. I'd like you to interview with my company. So once again, I wasn't looking for anything, right? And so I said, well, literally, do you have a training program? He said, yes. So I interviewed with a company, and then 25 years later, was one of the best decisions I made. Then this is the other funny part, Jason, is that so I start working for this company, and then the manager leaves. And then the district manager, regional manager comes in. He said, you have time for breakfast? I said, oh, sure. Yeah, okay, you're my boss. So yes, I'll go to breakfast. And at breakfast turned into, I want you to take over the office. And I said, what? He goes, yes, I've watched you work over the last year, and I think you'd be perfect for it. I said, well, wait a minute, Tom. I don't have the background that some of the folks here have. Are you sure? He says, no, absolutely. We'll put you through a training program. So I ended up working for that particular company for 13 years, and then I headed on to another one. But all focus, and my primary focus was on those difficult loans, those first-time home buyer loans that were going to keep people in their home. Because if I'm going to do business in a community that I live in, I want to make sure that when I bumped into someone in the grocery store, it was a good experience for them. And that was probably one of the best decisions I made, because of the fact that I didn't have to go door knocking for business. A lot of the customers would come back, say, we want to buy another home, or my son or my daughter want to buy another home, or they would refer business to me. So I was very blessed in that career. And then when I wasn't looking for a job when the university popped up, a friend of mine who I had known for years reached out to me and said, the president of the university is looking for a director of community and government relations. I think you should apply. It's perfect. You're the right person for this job. And I said, no, Marty, I'm fine. Thank you very much. He says, no, really, I want you to apply. This is the first person, you'll be the first person to hold this position. And it took him probably like 2 to 3 months to convince me. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not looking for a job, right? So that's the best time to interview for a job. I said, oh, what the heck? So I came in and I interviewed with Dr. Rush, and we sat down, we talked for 2 hours, and he never once asked me, why do you think, Celina, that you're qualified for this job? I came in and I had a conversation with a person I'd never met, and it was a great conversation. Left the office, and Marty caught me down the hall and said, okay, how did it go? I said, Marty, he was a very nice man. I really enjoyed the conversation, but I don't think I've of the job, because he never asked me why I felt I was qualified for the job. And he says, no, I think there's more to this. And lo and behold, a couple of days later, Dr. Rush gave me a call. At that time, he was the president, and said, okay, when do you want to start? I was floored, because I thought, I know nothing about higher education besides the fact that having a higher education really opens up so many different opportunities, right? And I remember coming into my office on the very first day, putting my head down, thinking, oh my God, what did I just do? I just switched careers completely, and I know nothing about a higher education. But really, it's really interesting, because I had known a lot of our elected officials working on affordable housing projects throughout the years. You had to know who they were, because you needed their support on your housing projects. And then I remember telling Dr. Rush, asking him, okay, what does this job entail? And he said, we'll make it up as we go along. I thought, oh, okay. I said, well, who do I reach out to? And then this goes to our conversation about mentors. And he says, you know what? Reach out to Brian Miller. And I think you know Brian, Jason, that used to work for Alan Gallickley. Now he works for Callie Long. And he says, talk to Brian, and, Brian will fill you in. What's one of the best decisions, that he's been a dear friend and a great mentor over the years. He would call me up and say, Celina, you need to be at this meeting. I said, Brian, what are they talking about? Well, I'll fill you in later. But, those are people that people want to help, first of all, but you need to reach out and ask for help. And you'd be surprised on how many people want to see you succeed.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What a huge leap of faith like you said, for 25 years in the mortgage industry, to completely flip to a position that really had no description, as you said, we'll
Mhm.
make it up as we go. And here you are now today, doing so much in the community, Moore Park community, the surrounding communities.
Mhm.
So I think that it's just such an amazing story. I want to dive a little bit deeper in there. I want to shout out to Nathan Cook. Thanks for watching, Nathan. And for anybody else that's watching live, by the way, if you guys are watching live, if you have any questions for Celina, please post them in the comments, and I'll be happy to ask her for you. You brought up earlier when you were talking about being in the mortgage industry, and you were offered a manager position. Two things stuck out. One was you talked about the importance of having the personality, right? You
Mhm.
were picked because you had the right personality. How important is that in your role with what you do and the people that you work with, that you have the right personality, the personality that fits the situation?
You do, and every job, every career has a different personality, right? I don't know that I could be an engineer, and I admire engineers because they're very fluent in math, right, and sciences. But you have to find the right career for your personality, because that's where you're going to bloom. That's where you're going to grow. That's where you're going to maximize and stretch yourself beyond what you think you can do. This job, just like the mortgage banking job, really tested me on, okay, Celina, do you really want to make a career out of this? Do you what do you want to do with this? I didn't want just a job. I wanted a career. I wanted something I was going to be passionate about. But you know what, Jason? I read a lot of motivational quotes, and I read one, and it's something a lot. We have a choice every morning, and that choice is, what attitude are you going to wake up with? I woke up this morning, and did I want to exercise at 5 o'clock in the morning? No, I wanted to stay in bed, but I thought, no, that's my way of my time to get out and just spend time on myself and really get in the right frame of mind. And yes, at times I want to sleep in, but for the most part, afterwards, I'm like thanking myself, going, okay, that was your time to get yourself going.
Hmm. Well, and what you're really talking about is, we all have this motivation to do better, but it actually takes discipline to get
Yes.
up at 5 a.m. and get that work going. Hey, so what are you reading? Where are you getting your motivational quotes?
You know what? I subscribe to a couple of them on social media, and they just pop up.
Uh-huh.
But it's just everywhere. I find it everywhere. I find it in people. I find a lot of motivation in people. During COVID, it was very interesting. I went through withdrawal symptoms. I'm a people person. I grab my energy from people, and all I had was my two dogs, right? And with family, we called each other up and said, "How you doing?" I did a lot of the grocery shopping for some of them, but I really get a lot of my motivation when I see a lot of our students, like your daughter, when she crosses that line. I feel like such a proud mom. I have no kids myself, and someone asked me, "Celina, how many kids do you have?" I said, "I don't have any," and I said, "No, I have 6,000 of them." Right? Because you see them every day going to class, you talk to them, they get to know you. We have student assistants here in the office. We're vested in tomorrow's workforce. And I really take to heart that although I'm not a faculty member, our faculty members here at Cal State Channel Islands are incredible. Just absolutely love the passion for what they do. But I also feel like I have a vested interest in every single student that crosses that line at commencement time.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I do have two children, but I also have hundreds of
Mhm.
children that come through our martial arts school, every year. And you definitely do, even though they're not your kids, you still feel this pride. And I'm probably a little bit more attached because I am on the mat and seeing successes and seeing failures on a daily basis. But I totally get that feeling of that pride and joy of seeing those students cross the finish line, graduate and move on. And even more so, I bet what is really fun is to see these students. And you talked about, referrals earlier, and you talked about relationships. And, you know, how cool is it that in a few years after they graduate, you see them working in the community, you see them working at the companies, you see them starting to, donate their time, volunteer, and give back. And then you have this different relationship with them, because now they're no longer a student. Now they're more a colleague or a peer or someone that that you can work with in the community. So I think that that's cool. Do you have any stories about students that you've had that opportunity to kind of bridge that gap with?
Yes, quite a few actually. When my father was very ill and he was in the hospital, all of a sudden this young man walks in and I look up and his name was Jason, actually. I said, "Oh, Jason." He was one of our top-notch nursing students. So I see a lot of them out in the field and just in day-to-day, um, going through day-to-day meetings and all. I do see a lot of them and I feel like such a proud mom. And I always make sure to tell them, please reach out to me. Don't forget is that when you're looking for a mentor, you all your friends are probably your same age. Look for mentors at different stages in their lives, because what you want to do is you want to learn from their mistakes and you want to learn from their wisdom and their knowledge of what they've experienced in life, and you'll get a totally different perspective, right? And even if different nationalities, different backgrounds, I think that when you put yourself in this positions, let's say, for example, that you're going to this event, and this actually happened to me. But good news is I enjoy people, but literally my job entails going out to events, a lot of breakfast, lunch, and dinner meetings or business meetings. And sometimes I might not know anybody there, but my job is to get to know people, right? And connect them. And so really, when you put yourself in those uncomfortable positions, I truly believe that's when you're going to do the most personal growth.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this is again another area that I feel very strongly about is, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And I
Yes.
might teach this a little different in a different scenario, because we talk about being comfortable being uncomfortable in a self-defense situation, while we're training, but just in life, I've had many of these opportunities where it wasn't quite my thing, but step outside the comfort zone, and then you're pleasantly surprised when you learn something new, or you meet a person that just you may have never met because you didn't attend that event or because you didn't give it a chance. And going back to the mentor situation, this is a huge part for me in my growth, is that for a long time, you are surrounded by those you went to school with and those you've kind of grown up with, and then everybody starts kind of going on their different path and doing different things. But in my professional career, I've definitely had the opportunity to meet people that are at different stages of their life and learn so much, because hey, if I can learn from someone else's failure and I can cut that learning curve in half. I had a very strong mentor in my business that literally changed the trajectory of everything that we did, because they were we were actually the same age, but they were just at a different stage in their career, or they were already so far ahead. And for him to be able to relay his advice and his experience, and man, what a blessing that was for me, because I could have just spun the hamster wheel for years and years and years and try to figure it out by trial and error, versus learning from someone who's already gone through it, already has the answers. And this goes back to the reading as well. I read a lot of John Maxwell. John Maxwell
Yes.
has
Yes.
just an amazing way of talking about leadership. And I love, he's at a much different stage in life that, but much older, right? But then all these different lessons that come along. It's actually my daily reading comes from the Maxwell leadership book. So
And you know what? I met John. I mean, I didn't meet him, but his books when I was in mortgage banking, because you really had to motivate yourself, right? Okay, I got to go out there. I got to get out there. But let me tell you about share an experience with you that I really stepped out of my comfort zone, and you're going to appreciate this. So Naval Base Ventura County is here in our backyard. And at that time, it was Captain McHugh. He said to me, "Celina, I'm going to nominate you for this program. Don't get your hopes up too high. They only select 60 people across the United States to go through this 1-week military program. It's called Joint Civilian Orientation Conference. You travel all over the United States in some type of military airplane. Send me your resume, and then we'll, I'm going to send it in. But I just telling you because they might reach out to you, but it's just a difficult one." So I said, "Okay, fine." So I gave it to him. And then about 8 months later, I get this email from the Pentagon. And I'm thinking, okay, this is spam. Why am I getting emails from the Pentagon? So I called Captain McHugh. I said, Captain McHugh, I got this email from the Pentagon. Should I open it up? He said, oh, absolutely. It's probably the program that I nominated you for. And so I said, okay, fine. So, oh my God, I got accepted into this week-long program through the Pentagon, where we flew across the United States to different military bases in a C-17 cargo plane. And in every military base, we got to experience, of course, not with live ammunition, but a life of someone in the military, whether it's Navy, Air Force, Marines. It was absolutely incredible. The part that scared me and I stepped out of my comfort zone is that you had to be in shape. You had to be able to climb up 10 flights of stairs nonstop. You had to get a physical, and then you had to sign a release that if you died or you lost a limb, you would not sue the United States government. And I was terrified. I didn't tell anybody in my family because I know my father would have said no. My brothers, my sisters would have said, no, you are not doing that. No, no, no. I did tell the guy that I was training with. He goes, okay, we're going to do this. Jason, it was one of the most incredible experience I've ever done. I'll have to show you pictures someday because we did have a professional photographer, and some of the places we visited, they literally said, give us your cell phone because we cannot tell you where you're going. You can't take pictures in this particular area. The gear we put on, I was on a Black Hawk helicopter. We flew over the Central Mall in Washington, D.C. with the back of the Black Hawk open at night. It was just spectacular. So that's one of them. And then the other one, once again, was credit to my dear friend, Captain Larry Vasquez from Naval Base Ventura County. Called him up one day and he said, hey, Captain, I'd love to tour the USS Ronald Reagan. I know up in Santa Barbara. And he said, oh, sweetheart, you know what? I'm sorry. We have a 500 people waiting list. Maybe next time it comes around. I said, oh, okay, no problem. So then about 2 weeks later, he calls me up. He said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I said, nothing. What's going on? And he said, well, could you get yourself down to San Diego? I said, what's going on in San Diego? He says, you want to spend the weekend on the USS Ronald Reagan out at sea? That was incredible. Oh my gosh. So either Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we got to land out at sea and we got a catapult out at sea. And all night long, you saw these Top Gun fighters just landing their planes, and you could tell when they were gonna land properly. But once again, it's one of those things that I laugh with Captain Vasquez because I said, Captain Vasquez, the one time I'm out at sea with 5,000 men and they can't run, I have to look like one of them because he said, you can't wear a dress, you can't wear high heels, you're going to look like one of the workers on the ship, right? But that was just those are probably two just incredible experiences I've had. And once again, it's people reaching out to me saying, Celina, I'm going to nominate you for this. Are you interested in doing it? And taking that opportunity, because sometimes you'd say, oh no, what if I lost a limb? Well, I thought, oh, what the heck? Let's do this and let's see what happens, right?
Well, I've heard the first story before, and you tell it with such excitement and enthusiasm. I had never heard the second story, which is awesome. And what I want to touch on just with those stories is that the relationships that you've built over time really have provided those opportunities. So we've been talking a lot about opportunities, seizing the opportunity, going after it, but also creating and fostering and cultivating these relationships with people, not just within the community, but as far as your reach goes, and that has really made a difference in your life, hasn't it?
It really has, Jason. And I always tell people, don't burn any bridges because you might have to cross over them someday. And plus too is that on a daily basis, we would all love to be happy-go-lucky, but everybody's dealing with their own internal challenges, right? I'm not saying by any means to the stretch of the imagination that my life is perfect, but I'm awake, I'm alive, right? The choices we make every day determine what kind of day we're going to have. But relationships to me are extremely important, whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's a work. Well, you know what? I think I've gotten to the point that I love people. Everybody knows that. But I take to heart all my relationships. I value all my relationships because people, without even knowing, had probably helped me some way along the way. You know how people say, "Well, I'm self-made." No, no one. I don't think anybody is self-made. Everyone has had people along their journey in life help them out in some way, shape, or form, and that's why I believe that when someone asks me for help on a project, I'll be the first one to step up. I'm going to be
Mhm.
there to help out.
Well, and let's talk about your service to community. You've been a member of several boards, different organizations, volunteers. You're a harbor commissioner. Tell us, how did you get into volunteering and helping in the community? Was that kind of part of your job at the time, and how have you continued to foster those opportunities?
So when I was in mortgage banking, that's when I first started. I thought I don't want to go door knocking and to look for business. So I thought I'm going to volunteer, and so I started volunteering, and people realized, hey, what do you do? Oh, I work in mortgage banking. Oh, okay. My son would like to buy a house, so that's how it all got started, right? I really enjoy volunteering, period, because like I mentioned earlier, is a lot of people have helped me along in my journey, and so I
Mhm.
believe in giving back. So I just I've always been that type of person that I think we I probably get more out of volunteering than I give, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
You lose yourself in that cause in doing what you're doing passionately, and you meet some amazing people in that environment. And as an example, you know how I said earlier, people are watching what you say, what you do, what you don't do, what you don't say. With regards to the harbor commissioner position, this is exactly how it happened. I'm sitting in my office and I get a phone call, and it's Fiona Ma, our state treasurer. She's been to campus a couple of times, so I thought she was calling to say she wanted to come back out. And I said, "Hi, Fiona, how are you?" She said, "Hi, Celina, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just here in my office." And she said, "Well, I'm here with my husband, Jason Hodge. He serves on the Oxnard Harbor Commission. Do you know him?" I said, "Oh, yes, I know Jason. How are you both doing?" "Oh, great, thank you." "Well, we want to talk to you about this opportunity." And I said, "What opportunity?" "Well, Dr. Lopez passed away." I said, "Yes, my condolences. He was a dear friend of mine." "Well, they're going to submit applications to fill the position versus having a special election. And Jason and I want you to submit your application." I was quiet on the phone. I said, "Oh, Fiona," I said, "I'm very flattered. Thank you so much. But I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy. No, no, thank you." She goes, "No, no, no, listen, listen. You know, um, you've got the connections, the community. You grew up in that area. You are in the right. You live in the right city for this position. You're very well respected, highly regarded. Really think about it." And this was, I think, on a Thursday. And I said, "Well, how long do I have to think about it?" She said, "Well, interviews are on Monday." And I said, "Oh, okay." So, well, first of all, I need to talk to my president. And if she said yes, then I need to talk to legal counsel. And if either one, the president or legal counsel says no, then that's the answer because I would hate to jeopardize my job. I absolutely love what I do. And she said, "Okay, great." So I asked my president, and she said, "Oh my God, what a fantastic opportunity." And then I asked our legal counsel, and he said, "Oh my goodness, what a great opportunity." And lo and behold, I went to interview on Monday and they had 6 candidates. And I was very fortunate that I was selected. And then that was for February of 20. And then that November, you needed to run for the 4-year term if you wanted to keep the seat. It's been an incredible experience. Very fortunate to have met Will Berg, who did a lot of the community outreach before, government relations. He since has retired, but I worked very closely with him on creating partnerships and different meetings we were at together. So he always kept me informed about the port. So when I went to my very first board meeting, I wasn't as lost as I thought I was going to be. And it challenges me because now I get to use both sides of the brain. I'm working in higher education and I'm back out in the business sector. So I
Mhm.
really have enjoyed that experience. But once again, I go back to people are watching what you say, what you don't say, what you do, what you don't do. Because trust me, I would never have said I'm going to run for elected office had the position come open. That was just the furthest thing from my mind.
Mhm. Mhm. I have to ask, how do you balance it all, right? So you're spinning so many plates and you're doing so many things. How do you balance it all?
With a lot of exercise. That's how I keep my sanity. It all intertwines because a lot of the meetings that let's say, for example, for the harbor, a lot of the meetings that I go to for higher education, they're at the table, right? And a lot of the meetings I go for higher education, the harbor's at the table. So it's not a lot of more. It just works out really well. And that's why if I didn't enjoy it, I would not have run for the office because it gave me enough couple of months to test it out. And that's exactly what Fiona and Jason said, test it out for a couple months. And if you don't like it, then don't run. But I think that you're really going to enjoy it. I have met some amazing people. Talk about learning about the latest and greatest technologies. We're talking about wind, solar power. The port of Wainimi, we're able to take a lot of the backlog from the congestion down from LA and Long Beach that happened during COVID. And we are the green port in California. We are the greenest port. So it's worked out really well. And once again, Greenport talks about environmental science research, right? Well, we have an ESRM program here at the university. So how do I intertwine the university to everything that I do? It's worked out beautifully.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit more about, what's going on at Channel Islands. Tell us, just a little bit more of your, your responsibilities and how in the beginning it was, we'll learn as we go. We'll make it up as we go. I'm sure by now we've refined that a bit, right? And there's some very distinct challenges and there's some very distinct responsibilities. Just talk about that for a little bit.
I am going to celebrate my 16th anniversary on the 25th of this month. I can't believe it's been 16 years since I started here. So my responsibility really is to connect the community to the campus and connect the campus to the community, create opportunities for not only our faculty members, but also our students, and try to motivate and engage the community in supporting and the importance of the greater good being that if one more person in our community is educated, we all benefit. A lot of times people say, well, no, you benefited because you're the one that got the education. No, if we educate folks, then they're less likely to be on social services, right? Which in the long run, we all benefit from then. So my job is to make the community see the bigger picture of supporting higher education and more important of all, our future workforce, right, of California in this particular case. But when I go out to talk to students, my job, Jason, is really basic, but a lot of people say your job sounds exhausting. I talk to high school students. I said, okay, how many of you guys like to travel? They all raise their hand because I do quite a lot of travel. How many of you guys like to dress up? They raise their hand. Okay, how many like to eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner meetings? They raise their hand. How many of you like to make friends? They raise their hand. I said, well, get ready to apply for my job when I retire. Because that's exactly what I do is I make friends for the university. I promote the value of higher education. I work a lot with Sacramento and Washington, D.C. on issues of higher education. We've been very fortunate in Ventura County that we have had some state representatives and some congressional representatives that have worked really well for the campus, have worked really well and value the importance of higher education. So they've been some of our biggest champions. Their staff that they have been incredible. You working with the chamber and us, that's where we met, is you see how they report back on what their respective legislators working on and how it'll impact the community. And so then, of course, I reach out to a lot of our community members when I have issues, let's say on the state budget, that the university needs some support from the community to talk to our legislators about it, or when there's a particular bill that's going to negatively or positively impact the university, I go out and garner support for that as well. But I've been very blessed. I'm on my third president. First president I worked for was Dr. Rush, and then the next one was Dr. Beck, and now President Yao, who's been with us for a couple of years. You'll have to meet him if you haven't yet. He's just really refreshing, a bundle of energy, great positive energy, which is important to me. I'm one of those individuals that hold a position on campus that is at will. There's a handful of us that if it doesn't click with your president, it's They say thank you very much. Really appreciate your time with us. And you move on, right? I've been very fortunate to work with 3 individuals that I have been able to connect with, and we've worked really well because you have to be in sync. There's stuff that I do directly with the president that only the two of us know what direction it's going, and I keep him or her abreast of any issues that are happening in the community that could positively or negatively impact the campus.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said that your job is fairly easy, but I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of stuff going on, and you have a lot of responsibility make a really big impact for the university. But I have to ask, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have had? What is there anything that has been a big challenge recently, other than COVID? Because don't want to talk about it.
We don't talk about. I think really my biggest challenge is that there's only 24 hours in a day. I want to do so much. And there's only so much capacity. Just a little history about Cal State Channel Islands is that when we opened up, the governor gave us a blessing and said, "Vaya con Dios, go figure out how you're going to fund your campus." And so we have really had to go out there and develop some very strong partnerships. One of the best partnerships we officially launched was when Dr. Rush reached out to the community and said, "What do you need from the university?" And at that time, there was a crisis, and it still is a crisis on nurses. And so he went back to the chancellor's office, and the chancellor said, "Yes, you can start a nursing program, but we got no money. You go figure out how to fund it." He went out and reached out to all of the hospitals, and each hospital came up with a minimum of $500,000 to get the nursing program launched here at Cal State Channel Islands. And that funding then started an amazing program. Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital up in Santa Barbara has since then given us a very generous donation to duplicate that program up in Santa Barbara. And our nurses are the top of their class. I think our nursing program is in the top 10 nursing programs in the state of California. So we're a very entrepreneur campus because we were given, $30 million by the governor to say, here's your start fund, right, to get the campus going. It's been a labor of love. And I got to tell you, anybody who works at this campus is truly a labor of love because we don't have any extra money. I always tell individuals that are donating to other campuses, and I'm sure that my other colleagues don't like this. I'll say, hey, listen, if you gave that campus $1 million, it'll be $1 million. If you gave us $1 million, we will stretch and squeeze every penny out of that $1 million to make a positive impact going towards students' education.
And if I understand correctly, the nursing program at Channel Islands is one of the best in the area, and it has a lot of great success.
Yes, it's very competitive. We get something like 500 students applying for maybe 33 slots, but it is one of the best programs in the state of California for nursing.
We have a question from someone watching on Facebook, and they said there's a lot of construction going on the campus. What's being built?
So if you come off of University Drive, you're going to see what they call Gateway Hall. Gateway Hall is going to be housing, financial aid, advising. All those services that students need are going to be centralized in one building versus sporadically throughout campus. So it's going to make a lot easier experience for the students. We also have, I don't think we've broken ground on it yet, but we have the Early Childhood Education Center that we received a total of $7 million from through the office of Jackie Irwin. She championed that fund for us. And then also an additional $5 million from the County of Ventura for the Childhood Center. And then we have additional donations that have been people that have been very generous to get that off the ground. And then on the backside of the campus, backside of the library, you have University Glen. So that might be also the construction question is we have housing that's being built back there for sale and including affordable housing plus also senior citizen housing. So there's two parts. There's offsite, which is part of the campus, and then onsite, which will be benefiting the students.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. I always like to hear of growth and more things being built, more opportunity for people. We're going to start wrapping up here in just a minute, so if anybody has any questions, I know Celina has another meeting to attend, and I only really have a couple questions left, and they're all really on the same topic. Number one, how many pairs of shoes do you actually have?
Oh, Jason, you had to ask that question. Yes, my passion is shoes. I lost count.
What's your favorite color shoe?
Red. I love red
Red.
shoes.
I,
Yes,
I could have
absolutely love
guessed
red
that.
shoes. Yes.
And what's your favorite brand of shoe?
Oh,
What's like your dream shoe?
Manolo or Jimmy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. I know. Your wife and I have a lot in common. I follow her on Facebook, and I see when she's shopping. I'm like, oh, thank you. Just gave me another idea.
I try not to watch that.
She does some of
But
my shopping for me sometimes because I thought, oh,
oh
I was looking for that. I think I'll get it.
yeah, just shop with Jackie. That's
Uh-huh.
an easy fix for a lot of people on all kinds of different stuff. It's her passion. Her passion is shopping. Um, well, listen, Celina, thank you so much for being on here today. I know that your time is limited, and I just love hearing your story and helping tell your story to other people. Is there anything that you'd like to close with? Any closing message?
Well, because my audience, a lot of students I work with, a lot, well, even, older adults, because we have some older adults that come back to school, is you're never too old to learn, and you're going to get old, so you might as well learn, right? So don't hold yourself back. Also, I think that one thing that I learned early in life is that don't wait for everything to be perfect. Because so often we say, oh, well, I don't have all the qualifications. Sometimes you don't need them all. You'll learn. But if you have that passion to learn the job, I think that you'll be successful. But you're going to have to, once again, make that commitment, right? Develop those great habits. Wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Do we want to stay in bed? Absolutely, we do. But, really make a commitment. And I think a lot of folks, unfortunately, I hate to say this, is that we all want something, but we're not willing to make that commitment to get what we want. And I always say too is that anything worth having is not going to come easy.
Yep.
Right.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah. And I know
Well,
you'll appreciate this because you're really into being physically fit, is that we only have one body. We need to take care of it. We need to exercise and really take care of ourselves, not only for ourselves, but for our kids, right? For our family members. And yeah, it's just, and I know this sounds really Pollyanna, but don't worry, be happy. I mean, it's life is life, and how we react to it is going to say a lot. But we have those choices that we can make every morning on what kind of day we want to have, and hopefully everybody picks, that they want to have a good day.
Well, I appreciate that, Celina. I appreciate your time and all the energy that you bring to everything that you do. The passion for your job and for serving the community. So thank you so much. And for those of you that are watching here live, make sure to share the video so more people can learn about Celina and what she does in our community. And also go to YouTube and subscribe to the Master Motivation Podcast. That's it for today, guys. As Celina said, keep learning, keep growing. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.
Thank you, Jason. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Celina. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.